So to conclude this part of the session, which is around organising for digital transformation, we thought we'd ask a company and a practitioner who is an absolute expert in this area. Simon Forster is Executive Director of Selfridges. He's digital, supply chain, customer experience and strategic change are some of his remits. There's quite a few there, Simon. Simon joined in 2012, where he was previously multi-channel director at Debenhams. And we believe that there's no one more qualified to take us from theory into actual practice of digital transformation. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you. Actually, I would first of all like to thank Martin for making sure that that survey was anonymous. How awkward it would have been to have had Selfridges as a laggard on there and then have to get up. I guess, for those of you that have watched Mr. Selfridge or watched the TV programme, you'll know that the store opened in 1909. And I guess the point there is, for 100 years, the business model has been really consistent. So, you create all of the energy within the store. You open the store at the beginning of the day, customers will come in, you serve them, they'll buy things, at the end of the day you close up, and that's it till the next day. And then, I guess, 100 years after starting, we've all seen that this whole shopping journey has now fundamentally changed. And our customers are starting their shopping journey either sitting at home in one of the suburbs of a UK town, or they might be at an airport in the middle of the States. They could be anywhere. And it could be any time of the day. You heard earlier on about Black Friday, and we saw exactly the same thing. 1 minute past 12 was the point where we had the biggest spike actually coming in. So what I've been asked to do today is to talk a bit about kind of what we've learned as we've started to change our organisation. Key thing, first of all, is not remotely saying that we have completed or particularly ahead of a lot of other retailers. I think everything that we've heard today says that the market is evolving at an increasingly fast rate. There are no retailers that I know who would say that they are there, that they are truly omnichannel and they are truly digital. Everybody is trying to keep up with a customer that's evolving quicker than any organisation can actually cope with. But I will be able to share how we've actually approached it, and particularly some of the areas that have either worked or not worked as well. So I guess first thing is, often retailers that have got a number of sites talk about the website as another store. It isn't. Digital is not another store. It's just a convenient way that a lot of retailers think about what is this website thing that we've actually got. And a way of bringing that to life, I'm guessing you've all been into Selfridges in Oxford Street at some point. If you haven't, you need to get out more, because you definitely should go and see it. But think how big that store is, 580,000 square feet, and how busy it actually gets. It's about 20 million people a year will go into our Oxford Street store. Our website, which takes considerably less money, has over 100 million visits to that. So effectively what we've got here is a store with a lot of effort going into the windows and everything that's actually happening within it, and yet already 5 times as many customers will actually go to the website as will actually walk into that particular store. Of those 100 million, and I'm just talking about this year, this is not about where we're actually going, that's just now. Of those 100 million customers or visitors that we actually get to the website, 25% every day, every week, are from outside of the UK. So these are customers that are not about to come into the store at all. They're from outside of the UK. We actually had a look to see, well, which countries are they actually visiting from? We ship to, as of last year, to 134 countries. So we had a look to see, of all of those countries, which ones are we actually getting visits from? And the answer was, by the end of last year, it was all of them. Every single country had had a visit or a number of visits at some point. So I guess the point there is when we're thinking about how we're actually managing the organisation, it's making sure that we don't just see digital as a store, as a separate thing, as just something to actually generate money. And it's very much the access point to your brand that your customer is going to take. So second point here, I guess it's not just about sales. As retailers, we do focus on sales a lot. I'm not going to apologise for that. But the digital part of the business and the transformation that we want to make to the organisation isn't just about that sale. It's about the journey. And what we certainly see is that most of the sales that we're actually getting in the store, and this is really just from last year, nearly 2/3 had a digital element at some point. So the journey might have ended in the store or it might have ended online, but nearly 2/3 had a digital element at some point. That could even just be down to where is the store or what time does it open. It's not necessarily an in-depth browsing experience. We did some work at Christmas, and one of the questions we were asking our customers was exactly the same point. Actually, the number at Christmas went to over 85%. So kind of scary, scary numbers, which basically just kind of proves the point. It's about the journey, not the sale. And the important thing that we're considering is how to make sure, if you think of that thread where it starts, whether it's on a sofa or whether it's waiting for a plane somewhere, the important thing is if you actually break that thread, then that sale is unlikely to happen ultimately. We had a good example of this with Cartier. So we were the first business to actually get Cartier to come online, obviously luxury jewellery business. And they were very concerned about, well, if we do this, how's it going to work and how will the customer get the right experience? And we actually, from our point of view, the most important thing was to be able to share with our customers that this product was there. So we actually built something purely on a click and collect basis to be able to show that that product was there. And what I was really pleased about was that the instant reaction that we got from Cartier was that what they reported back was that on a Saturday, they were getting customers coming into the store saying, I'd like that one, please. Where's that? So the idea that customers are not just shopping in a separate channel kind of proved the point. These 75% of, this is Selfridges digital customers, live close to a store. Now, we're only in 3 cities. So one of the things I think is worth, again, considering as we go forward is, well, what's going to happen with these stores? We've only got 4 stores. We're not intending to create any more stores. But one of the big questions is, are customers going to move away from those stores and online? Because if that's the case, then the future business model is going to be very different. We're not seeing that, and I think, again, fundamentally it comes down to what sort of behaviour is our customers actually practicing. I guess one of the ways to think about it is this. We sell a lot of coats. We sell a lot of coats from a variety of different brands. I don't think any of our customers has ever come in and bought a coat from us because they're cold. Not once, not ever. It's about the brand. It's about the experience, and it's about the kind of whole concept of what it feels like to actually go out and actually buy that product. So what we're seeing is that the stores are very much part of that, and where we don't have stores at all, Scotland being a good example, actually our level of sales in Scotland are really low. So a few questions. The business model has changed. I think everything we've heard today has kind of has said that. A number of questions. How do you actually grow something which is going to be new, but you can't just ignore the existing business? You can't just jump onto this new thing. You have to make sure that you're actually bringing the existing business with you. How do you get the right level of focus and yet have that desire to change everyone's behaviour and integrate this new operating model? And then again, how do you balance a short-term aim with a long-term aim? And we all know how difficult it is. If you get a business that just focuses on one of those two things, it's almost impossible to progress. So again, this is just what we did. One of the ways that we actually concentrated was to try and make sure that our strategy to start off, this was very much just focusing on the digital element, that our strategy was easy to understand. Probably more important necessarily than kind of explaining the whole width that we're actually trying to go to, or the ambition that we're necessarily trying to get to, but something that the business can actually get hold of. So the first thing we did was that we came up with this idea called the 4 Cs. It's not a coincidence they all start with Cs. It means everyone can remember it. I think we already heard of 3 Cs earlier on. 3 probably would be better, but anyway. The first bit was about choice. Now, certainly within the business, and I'm going back 3 or 4 years, there was a view that the digital business should be a slice of Selfridges. We're not really sure what this thing is. Let's make sure it's this little slice of Selfridges, just certain brands that would be on there to really showcase the sort of thing that the customer will find out when they come into the store. And I've actually read recently there are still a number of businesses who are actually proposing that that is actually going to be their strategy. It's wrong. That is not what customers are looking to do. It's as simple as that. Customers are looking to engage with your brand. They're looking to engage with our brand. If there are products in the store that are not online, people aren't going to get it. Not really. I'm looking online because I'm thinking of coming to the store, or I'm thinking of buying it online. Don't start differentiating it. It's really complicated. I don't understand what you're doing. So we had a very simple strategy, which is everything in the store goes online. We talked before about how different executives or how different people are actually engaged in that. This is not something that I was looking to do. This was something that our buying director and the whole buying team were actually looking to do. Because I guess, those guys absolutely got, certainly the buying director completely gets the fact that if those products are not online, then ultimately you're going to start to lose those sales, because the customer is not going to get it. And even over the last 3 years, the acceptance that they might not be all online is actually now becoming something which is seen as a real irritation. And our customers actually complain when they say, well, I can't find it online. What's going on? They'll ring us up and say, this is ridiculous. Something wrong with your website. Second point, customer. Now, I think here, again, in terms of moving the organisation on, there are a number of things which are new. So, we've got a marketing department, and say since 1909, been focusing very much on how do we actually get that brand name out there. But to speak to customers now requires something else. There are a number of specialist skills which weren't there before. So the analytical type skills to understand what paid search is and how you actually make sure that natural search works is not something that your organisation currently will just be able to do. So one of the reasons for pulling this out as a separate area is it meant that we could then invest. So it meant that we invested in bringing some great people into the business who really just specialised in this, not traditional marketeers at all. And that then allows us to then start to blend those two functions together, but only after we've built the right level of capability. Third one is channel. So what do we mean here? Areas like mobile, areas like desktop, tablets. I bunged international in this because I was going to run it with 5 Cs and I didn't want 5. So again, the idea there is focus. You can't get everything to move at the same time. So if on one hand you're looking at the product offer you're going to have on, and on the other area you're building your capabilities to attract and retain customers, you also need to build a certain level of technical skill. Now that technical skill can be in-house, or it can be with a partner, or it'll be a blend of the two. But one of the areas that we very much focused on was making sure that ultimately you've got to make sure that your digital site can be as responsive as possible, because again, that customer is going to be hitting your brand far more frequently than they can come to a store. So it needs to be constantly able to change. And the last point on here, creative. Again, it's a different skill. There's an assumption that, I guess, that if you can create an amazing window on Oxford Street, you can create an amazing window on a website. Not true. Totally different skills. They have to be aligned. There has to be that same thread that runs through it. But it's a very different skill. And when I watch those guys actually doing the windows in Oxford Street and seeing what they come out with, it's amazing. It's like you're watching a painter or something. But the skills to actually be able to bring that digital creative experience, again, is a specialist skill. And it's important when we think about what's the organisation going to be looking like in the future, that those sort of skills are, you've got to recruit them, you've got to get those guys to actually really understand the brand, and then they will start to affect the sort of thing that we're putting in the windows as well. So you can see here, ice being the sort of point here again, same idea. The 4 C's were all around what the customer's actually seeing. Ice is kind of the bit that's in the middle, if you like. Shameless attempt to get people to remember what the different things are. So infrastructure, culture, establishment was structure, but I just kept coming up with icks, and I thought it's just rubbish. So I did Google a synonym for that, and I got establishment. So that's what we went with. I think a few things to consider here. Everything that we've just been or I've just been talking about is really what the customer, sort of things that the customer's actually going to see. The hardest bits and the bits that are most likely to cause a failing are in here. So the first bit, which infrastructure, I kind of talk about there. You can think about that as it's the last mile, or it's your whole delivery capability wherever you actually are. This is the area that a lot of businesses, I think, kind of don't really invest in and struggle to see how important it is. You cannot build a demand at the front end and then not have the capability of fulfilling it. I have actually done that. It doesn't end well. So, believe me. Sometimes you can fail to do something, and that actually does allow the organisation then to give you the funding to actually fix it, but I reckon you only get one more chance. And a good example here is in our Canadian business. We're launching a website, and they said to me, "Oh, can you come and have a look and see what you think?" So I did that. They said, "We want to show you these images and the models that we're using." I said, "Well, you'll decide what they are. Why don't we go and have a look at the warehouse?" I mean, they looked at me as if I was kind of from Mars or something. They said, "What warehouse?" I said, "Well, what's the strategy for the warehouse and the supply chain?" They said, "Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get somebody in to come and look at that." I think we were 5 months off going live at that point. And having then finally gone to the warehouse that was actually there, to discover that this thing was much, much smaller than this room here. And when I asked what system they were using, the guy that was running the warehouse said that our guys have worked here. I can't do the accent. Our guys have worked here for years and years. They can remember where all the product is when we actually put it away. Okay, we may have a problem. So this is the area, in fact, we were just talking before, and we were looking at what level of investment goes into different parts of the business. The infrastructure is going to be the bit that's almost certainly going to cost you the most. And that's the bit you need to make sure that you're definitely investing in, because you've always got to be ahead of the level of demand that you're expecting to receive. Second point on here is around culture. I think probably the hardest lesson here, because a lot of businesses will talk about culture, is that if I take somewhere like Selfridges, say 100 years, that model's been really, really well established. We do not get things wrong in the store. So the windows happen, product gets moved around at an incredible rate, and actually that model works really well. And then all of a sudden you introduce a digital part of it, and things just start going wrong. The warehouse doesn't work. You start getting complaints from customers, and the inquiries from customers start to exceed the number of inquiries that you're getting to the store. Maybe this is just me, actually, but I'm assuming that other people have had problems as well. And of course, the reason why there is this level of difficulties is because it's all new. You've got new investments, and you're investing in a live environment. You've got new people, and you're trying to change an organisation all at the same time. So things are actually going to go wrong. So one of the things that we have really tried to work on is within the culture is a sense of we need to have a culture where we try new things, and we need to have a culture where when things go wrong, that we don't kind of suddenly kind of panic about it and think, oh, what are we going to do about that? Things will go wrong, because if things don't go wrong, you're not investing, you're not pushing things, you're not changing things. So our focus from a cultural point of view, I kind of describe it as a bit like the fire brigade. We can't we can't stop fire happening. Fire will happen. What we will do is have a business where the fire brigade is so amazing that it actually fixes the problem before anyone else can actually see it. And ultimately, with that kind of culture, hopefully we'll end up with less fires. We've certainly got a lot less fires than we've had previously. Next point, really, establishment. So as I say, structure. It's very difficult. We've heard a bit about structure earlier on. It's very difficult. I can't tell you what is the right structure for a business. There are a number of businesses which are changing their structure. I guess the only important thing to know is that the structure will need to change, because people can't just naturally evolve from one business model to another. There has to be some sort of intervention. We see this in 4 stages. Stage 1, which is kind of that 1909 model, is a very functional business. So the business is pretty much aligned in its different functions, and it's serving customers that are coming through the actual door. Stage 2 is separate functions. How do you grow a digital business? Well, you actually create a separate digital team. You start to put in that level of expertise, and you start to focus on those different areas. Of course, what that's not doing is jumping you straight to that end. So stage 2 is we call as kind of that separation. Stage 3, where I think a number of businesses are ahead, a number of businesses are getting to, is kind of a hybrid structure. Certain functions start to come together. The most obvious one is typically marketing. And the pressure for that is, if you keep spending money in your digital marketing team and you spend money on your traditional marketing team, it doesn't take a genius to work out that actually this isn't going to work. At some point, some decisions are going to have to be made about where you actually want to allocate some of those funds. So that then becomes more of a hybrid structure. So you start to fold back parts of the digital team into the rest of the business. And then ultimately, I suspect we'll come back to a functional structure again. I have no idea when that is. But at that point, the idea of buying, the idea of operations, etc., the idea of something being physical is completely gone. So at that point, those functions will be dealing in a completely omni-channel or no-channel way. So I'm just going to go through now and try and sort of point out, I guess, some of the things that we've learnt, often the hard way. And you know, some of these might resonate and some of them may not. So I guess in terms of where do we start, the key thing again is about talking to people. It's not about separate teams kind of building up this capability in secret. You will only change the organisation if you actually engage it. There's no shortcut to actually doing that. So we did introduce a number of elements. And kind of the key thing really, first of all, was this idea about banning jargon. It is very easy to completely exclude the rest of the business when these new areas of whether it's in marketing or whether we're talking about SEO or PLA or whatever it is, everything's a 3-letter acronym. As soon as that starts to be thrown into an organisation that doesn't understand it, you exclude them. And what that organisation would then do is they don't like being excluded, so they will actually put pressure on to actually close certain elements down. So banning jargon is really important. There's no need for it. There's no need for anyone to use that sort of jargon. If any of our team can't actually explain what it is in simple terms, then they probably don't understand it. I guess the second point on there is, everything that we've heard here, it's about what the customer's doing. So it's not about what we want to do, it's about what the customer's doing. And what the customers want to do, certainly with our brand, is engage with the brand. So we need to be a retailer. Technology is there as a means to an end. It's not the end in itself. But again, really important. If we're going to try and figure out, well, what will people want to do, then we have to do what we've always done and figure out, well, what would a customer like to do when they engage with our brand? We heard a bit about this before. The board must lead. That image doesn't mean anything. I just thought it was quite funny. I better say that before all of them now. This I think this is definitely a universal truth. I can't imagine. Well, I can imagine how difficult it is. It's certainly not something that I've experienced, but it is so important that the board, that the executive of the business lead this change. It's not okay for the CEO to kind of go, I'd like to do it, but no one else likes to do it. The whole board have got to do it. The whole board have actually got to get it. Even if they don't really understand what the journey is, they've got to sign up. Because there are going to be, there's going to be lots of differences, crazy things happening, and you can get really sidetracked. We had an example which I thought we were really making progress. It was actually, if anyone's here from Selfridges, by the way, don't repeat this when we get back. But the internal audit team announced in one of our business reviews that they've found something amazing about our Instagram account, and it's really affecting behaviour. I thought, wow, if the internal audit team are getting it, then we're definitely making progress. So he said, which is a bit rude to the internal audit team, but so, well, what have you seen? They said, so what we've seen is every single time you put a product on Instagram, it gets stolen. Okay? So what do you think we should do? Don't put any products on Instagram. Okay, we're not quite making the progress that I thought we should. But I guess, it's a trite example, but all of those things can really trip you up. And if the board aren't fundamentally saying, look, yeah, okay, we will need to fix that sort of stuff, but we're not changing direction. The rest of the organisation needs to hear that, and ultimately you've got to believe that the rest of the organisation will then start to move towards it. Clarity, adoption, momentum. So I think with any change, there's always a real balance. How do you make sure that you've got a clear strategy for where you're going? But frankly, if you sit off in a room somewhere and figure all of that out, the rest of the organisation is gone. They have no idea what you're talking about. And some of the changes that we're talking about here are big, and they take a lot of time. And organisations that are used to sort of changing things quickly don't like that. So none of us like to say, we've got this big investment, that's great, and we're going to see something in 2 years' time. Oh, I was thinking about tomorrow. So what I think is very important when we look at what we're looking to do within the business is to make sure that there are a number of things that are going to be delivered sooner rather than later. They don't have to be massive, but they need to be things that are either making your customers' life easier or your internal customers, i.e. your team's life easier. And doing a few things like that and then really shouting about them allows you to get the momentum, I think, to keep going with the bigger stuff. Hot housing is another one. Again, we're all talking about how do organisations change. Sometimes you have to do something which seems completely the wrong way to actually get to where you actually want to get to. So, we talked before about creating a digital business in the first place. You can't just ask everyone to start thinking digitally. You have to create a digital team. So if you want to be great at mobile, or in our case we've just done this, we want to be really sort of moving our international business. Our international business has been progressing at a fantastic rate. I think there's a limit as to how far it's going to go just by asking everyone to think about it. So we're setting up a separate division just to do that international part. And it will have a lifespan, and at some point we'll break it down. I don't know when it is yet, but at some point we'll break it down. So I don't think there's anything wrong with hot housing certain things to really focus on them, as long as the organisation knows why you're doing it. And then the last one, don't gold plate. This is always tricky because you always want to make sure that you're clear about where you're going, because otherwise you might make mistakes. I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years' time. I don't know what the customer's going to be doing. And I can't put a strategy together with my colleagues that would be that robust. And I think there's always a balance between how do you make sure you're not just focusing on short-term stuff and how you make not just focusing equally on the long-term stuff. So I think if you spend too much time making sure that this long-term strategy is absolutely perfect, you always got to think, well, but it won't be. And in the meantime, we're not progressing enough. So it kind of fits with what we talked about before. It's not about not having a strategy. You need to have a strategy. But I guess the question that we try and ask ourselves is, rather than is this definitely part of the strategy, it's if we do this, what are we then not going to be able to do? So what doors are we shutting? And if we figure out that the doors that we're shutting are not really going to be an issue, then we'll get on and actually do it. And that's it. Thank you very much.